Yes, depending on your time zone and your location. Start about the 11th day of June 2025. The day Mazi Simon Ekpa's court sitting Geri Zumunu na the Paijat-Hame District Court na Lati, Finland. Today, the court case Geri Zumunu back for continuation. Yes, start up with 11th. They are going to be in court by 11 or 12 today to continue the hearing of the case between Mazi Simon Ekpa and the Nigerian government. I'm not going to finish government on a case because there were a lot of things that are coming out of late concerning this particular court case. So before I play you guys update from Ifeanyi on a court, and there's some update I went yesterday concerning what is happening in court and how Mazi Simon Ekpa has actually been gaining some win over this case. Actually, can settle down a lot of updates and details in this particular video. Before I go deep into the video, this particular man, Anakpo Jesu Tega, na live broadcast, live interview, where they now say that Mazi Simon Ekpa should be shot dead. Now update I know to Abuna Wamadia is gone. According from the updates from this news updates, no to I with this update that this man the can play run on the video able to this thing a live broadcast, a live interview, and they may watch the video before continue eventually.
In the case of Simon Ekpa, his arrest is overdue. In fact, I had even well, this is classified. I had actually even encouraged that he should be shot because he was killing his fellow.
You can't shoot someone without trying, and you're a lawyer.
No, you can't. You can't. If
yeah, well, you'd be liable if you did.
No, if the person is an enemy combatant, it's liable to be shot. I know the law.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is that you're advocating for him to be shot. But you have to have incontrovertible evidence. He's alleged to have done things.
Yes, no problem. But this is just intelligence stuff. It's just a crazy, poorly educated young man. If that's in that case, I am in full support of his arrest.
And as he bite or yesterday commanding now, we don't know if Ebudia and maybe help. So this is the update I need now that the man about. Now let's go into the details, the full gist of what is actually going on around the court sitting for today. The court will start at exactly 11 or 12 for today, and video now, Adiama saying on the 100% accurate. Every detail said they had 100% accurate. Mana, even what happened among every say there must be a so actually can settle down watch this video. Credits to Greenlight Africa. I know that a lot of Biafrans Adia like in there with updates on ya. Man, I've got a mono number that now in every thing on ya ni Adima saying on the 100%. Mana, where is he getting the information from? Is he actually putting up stories together for content? You might say that. You might say that maybe he's actually saying some things. Man, I watched this particular video from the update or drop concerning Ifeanyi on courts and what Biafrans should hear about the way Mazi Simon Ekpa GMA an upper hand in this particular case. So watch the video, drop one more opinion again in the comment section. Ekaba share the video. Can also always require this updates. Watch the rest of the videos. I will be right back.
The trial of Mr. Simon has continued, and this time we think Simon is currently winning. Yes. Simon put up a good showing yesterday in court proceedings, and today this man has done absolutely well. The court session started at about 10:30 a.m. The legal counsel team of the defendant and the prosecuting lawyer were fully present. The court session started by the presiding judge making a statement to clarify every single thing that happened yesterday. But then before we go down to the courtroom to see what played out today, we have to do a quick disclaimer. In our video presentation, we usually use pictures and videos to depict what played out in the courtroom. Mind you, these pictures and videos are not from the courtroom from today. We only use these videos and pictures to better illustrate our points and buttress the fact. So with all of that being said, let's go back to the courtroom and see what played out. Because like I said, the judge had to make a speech. The judge started the court session today by making an opening speech. He was very, very angry about the way and manner the prosecuting lawyer tried to bring in a witness, a false witness yesterday. So the judge began the court session by saying, "Members of the court, it has come to my attention that yesterday a witness presented by the prosecution provided testimony that was, to put it plainly, false. This is a serious matter. The integrity of this court and indeed our entire judicial system rest upon the foundation of truth and honesty. False testimony undermines the foundation, erodes public trust, and can lead to grave miscarriages of justice. To the prosecuting attorney, I must express my profound disappointment. Your duty is not to merely to win a case, but to uphold the principles of justice. Presenting a false witness is a blatant disregard for these principles. It's a violation of the court's trust, and it is unacceptable. I understand that mistakes happen, and that zealous advocacy can sometimes lead to errors in judgment. However, presenting a witness known to be untruthful is not a mere oversight. It's a deliberate action with potentially devastating consequences. It is imperative that you and all attorneys practicing before the court understand the gravity of such actions. I expect the highest standards of ethical conduct from all legal professionals. The incident serves as a stark reminder of the importance of thorough investigation and due diligence. Before presenting any witness to this court, I urge you to learn from this mistake and not to ensure that such an incident never occurs again. The pursuit for justice demands nothing less. Let this be a lesson to all. The truth and only the truth will prevail in this courtroom. And like I said, this is a statement made by the presiding judge where he tried to query the prosecuting lawyer for bringing in a false witness in the courtroom yesterday. Well, the prosecuting lawyer had something to say. He definitely had to respond or reply to the judge, to the presiding judge, as the case may be. So the prosecuting lawyer asked the judge, "Can I speak?" And the judge said, "Yes, feel free." And he continued by saying, "Your Honor, please accept my sincerest apologies for the events of yesterday. The presentation of the witness in question was a grave error in judgment on my part, and I take full responsibility for the lapses in professional conduct. There is no excuse for my failure to adequately verify the witness's credibility, and I deeply regret this disruption this caused to the proceedings and the potential impact on the integrity of the court. I understand that the presentation of false testimony is a serious matter, and I'm profoundly sorry for the damage this has caused. I have already begun a thorough review of my investigative procedures to prevent any similar occurrences in the future. I am committed to ensuring that all future witnesses presented by my office are thoroughly vetted and their testimonies are completely verifiable." And this, like I said, is a statement coming from the prosecuting lawyer where he was asking the judge to pardon his mistakes from yesterday. After making that speech, the prosecuting lawyer continued by saying, "Your Honor, esteemed members of this court, I stand before you today to request the presence of a crucial witness in this case, a police officer from Nigeria, codenamed T7. This witness possesses vital information that is directly relevant to the charges against the defendant, Simon, who is accused of inciting violence through his social media posts while residing abroad." As you can see, the prosecuting lawyer wants to bring in, after the judge has queried him for bringing in a false witness yesterday, he wants to bring in a new one codenamed T7, which, like I said, is a police officer from Nigeria. So let's go back to the courtroom and see what followed suit. The moment the prosecuting lawyer finished his statement claiming that he wants to bring in a testifier named codenamed T7, at that point in time, Simon stood up and said, "Please, my honor, I would want to cross-examine this man. I would want to cross-examine T7 before he makes any statement in the courtroom," and his permission was granted. So let's listen to the exact words used by Mr. Simon and the way he structured the sentence and referred it to the judge. Let's take a listen. Simon said, "Your Honor, I stand before the court today to respectfully request a deviation from the standard procedures in this case. Before any testimony is presented by the prosecution, I request the opportunity to conduct a preliminary cross-examination of the witness. T7, my reason for the request is based on several crucial factors. Firstly, the nature of the anticipated testimony from T7 is highly sensitive and potentially prejudicial to my case." So Simon is asking the court, to the presiding judge, that please give me the opportunity to cross-examine T7, who is a police officer from Nigeria. I would want to ask him some basic questions. I would want to get some facts and details from him before he will be cross-examined by his own lawyer. And the judge granted Simon's his permission or his request. And now Simon walks up to the stand to cross-examine T7, who, like I said, is a police officer from the country. Simon started by saying, "Mr. T7, the prosecuting lawyer claimed that you're a member of the Nigerian police force. Is that correct?" T7 replied by saying, "Yes, that is correct." Simon continued, "I see. And as a member of the police force, you would, of course, carry identification, wouldn't you? T7 answered, yes, I do. Simon continued, could you please present your official Nigerian police force identification card to the court? T7 pulls out a card, but it looks somewhat worn and possibly outdated. T7 replied by saying, yeah, it is. Simon continued by saying, thank you. This appears to be an ID card. Can you confirm the date of issue? T7 replied, yes, it is. The date issued is October of 2018. Simon replied by saying, October 2018, and the current date is, and T7 replied by giving the current date of today. Simon continued by saying, so the ID card is over 5 years old, is that correct? T7 answered, yes, but I have been in the force since then. Simon continued by saying, I understand. Now, Mr. T7, as a serving officer, are you aware of the Nigerian Police Force's standard procedure for updating identification cards? T7 answered, yes, of course. We are supposed to update them periodically. Simon continued by saying, and have you done so? T7 replied by saying, not recently, no. And Simon responded by saying, not recently? So your official identification card, which you claim is proof of your current status as a police officer, is outdated, is that correct? T7 said, well, yes, but Simon interrupted him immediately and said, just answer yes or no. Mr. T7, is your card current? T7 answered, no. Simon said, thank you. Now, Mr. T7, I understand that the police officers often carry additional documentation, such as a warrant card, particularly when involved in official investigations. Do you have a warrant card with you today? T7 said, no, I don't. Simon continued by saying, you don't? And can you explain why you don't have your warrant card, Mr. T7? T7 answered, I may have left it at home. Simon continued by saying, at home? You are here to provide testimony as a Nigerian police officer and you don't have your warrant card. Isn't that the standard procedure? T7 answered, yes, but when T7 was about to give reasons for his mistakes, Simon interrupted him and said, no, but Mr. T7, you are here under oath claiming to be a Nigerian police officer and you cannot produce a current ID card or a warrant card. Does this not seem unusual to you? T7 couldn't respond. And Simon continued by saying, Your Honor, members of the jury, I believe the witness's testimony regarding his identity as a member of the Nigerian police force is now demonstrably questionable. As you all can see, this guy who claims to be a police officer don't have a proper identification. So why should we listen to anything he has to say in this courtroom regarding me? And this is coming from Simon. This is a very, very clever move made by Simon. And just in case you don't know, Simon happens to be a lawyer, a professional lawyer. He knows how to handle cases like this. So at this point in time, the lawyer representing Simon saw a massive point where he needs to jump in, critically hit the prosecuting lawyer and probably score a massive point. And this is the part where Simon's lawyer had to jump in and make a very, very clear statement that will send the whole courtroom in full confusion. So let's take a listen and hear what Simon's lawyer had to say regarding the testifier codenamed T7. He said, "As you can see, my lord, the prosecuting lawyer and his department over the past couple of days fails over time to do their due diligence in getting proper witnesses to testify against my client, Mr. Simon, in the courtroom. I feel like these guys somehow, some way are falsifying their testifiers and witnesses by bringing anybody they deem fit. My lord, I'll ask you to please suspend the prosecuting lawyer from presenting witnesses to the courtroom until he sits up and do due diligence before bringing anybody to testify in your court." Yesterday, this same prosecuting lawyer brought in somebody who claims to receive or had received cash to purchase arms from Mr. Simon. And after proper cross-examination was done by my client, we noticed that that did not happen in any way, shape or form. And today he's bringing up a police officer who doesn't have proper identifications on him to serve as a proper witness in this courtroom. My lord, I would want you to suspend the prosecuting lawyer from bringing up any witness going forward. And like I said, this is a statement presented by Simon's lawyer in question to all of the testifiers brought in by the prosecuting law department. Now, the judge had to come in and calm the whole place up because the courtroom was getting very, very intense. He had to speak up and calm everybody, from the legal counsel team of the prosecuting lawyer to the legal counsel team of Simon's lawyer, who happens to be the defendant. He wants everybody to stay calm. So the judge stood up and said, "I appreciate the opportunity to address the court regarding the authenticity of the witness T7. As we proceed with this case, it is imperative to ensure that all testimony presented is credible and reliable. Therefore, I would like to inquire about the following. The very first one here is going to be the authenticity of the witness. Can you provide details regarding the steps taken to properly verify T7's identity and the credentials as a member of the Nigerian Police Force? I would also want you to show me proofs on his background checks. Did you conduct any background checks on T7 prior to presenting him as a witness? If so, what specific information did you uncover regarding his history, including any potential issues that may affect his credibility? It is crucial for the integrity of this court that we establish the reliability of all witnesses. I look forward to your response on these matters to ensure that we maintain the highest standards of justice throughout these proceedings. Thank you." At this point in time, the prosecuting lawyer has been placed in a point that he never imagined he would get to. He had to stand up and clear the air. He was like, "See, I did proper checks on my witnesses based on the first-hand info I got from the Nigerian authorities. I got all my witnesses directly from the Nigerian authorities. I did not get anybody on my own. So if blame needs to be pushed, it needs to be sent to the Nigerian officers who presented individuals as witnesses, made their travel plans and sent them to Finland without doing due diligence. I'm going to take some part of this blame because I am supposed to check their documents before bringing them in this courtroom. And I promise, going forward, I'm going to do full identity check on my testifiers before presenting their statements in the courtroom. So permit me, my honor, to go on with our testimony and cross-examination. As you can see, at this point in time, the prosecuting lawyer was so much interested about cross-examining T7 than stating the reasons why over the past couple of days he has been presenting false and falsified witnesses in the courtroom. So the presiding judge gave him his permission. He was like, "Feel free, let's hear what you guys have to say, and this is your last warning. If you ever bring up anybody to the courtroom session that lacks credibility, I'm going to suspend you." And at the mention of that particular statement, Simon and his legal counsel smiled because this is a big one, a massive one to their case. So the prosecuting lawyer said, "Your Honor, permit me to cross-examine T7. But before I will cross-examine him, I'm going to give you more clarity about the questions you ask, about the questions of verification of identity, the review of official documentation, and all of those stuffs. Permit me to respond first before the cross-examination." And the judge said, "Yes, feel free, and please don't waste our time." And he said, "Your Honor, in response to the court's inquiry regarding the authenticity of the witness T7 and the steps taken to verify his credentials, I would like to provide the following information. Verification of identity, which happens to be the very first one." He said, "Prior to presenting Mr. T7 as a witness, we took several steps to verify his identity as a member of the Nigerian Police Force. These steps included review of official documentation. We reviewed the identification card presented by Mr. T7, which, as the court observed, indicated his affiliation with the Nigerian Police Force. We also contacted the relevant authorities in Nigeria to confirm that Mr. T7 was, in fact, employed by the Nigerian Police Force. We received confirmation of his employment status, and we also followed up by making inquiries with the Nigerian authorities regarding Mr. T7's current assignment and whether he was authorized to provide testimony in this matter. And the country said yes. We also went a step further regarding background checks. We conducted a limited background check on Mr. T7. This check included criminal history check. We ran a criminal history check to ascertain whether Mr. T7 had any prior convictions or pending charges. The check returned no criminal history. As you can see, this man is fit and proper to testify based on the information we received from Nigerian's government. Moving on swiftly, the lawyer said, "Please permit me to cross-examine T7. And the prosecuting lawyer continued by saying, "Good morning, Officer T7. Can you please state your full name and the rank for the records?" T7 answered, "Good morning," and he stated his name, "And I'm a police officer with the Nigerian Police Force." The prosecuting lawyer said, Officer T7, you have testified that you were involved in the investigation of the event that occurred in a particular village in Nigeria. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct, answered T7. The prosecuting lawyer continued. Can you describe what happened on that day? T7 answered, on that day, a large group of villagers gathered and began to destroy government buildings. They were very agitated and violent. We had to intervene to restore order. The prosecuting lawyer said, did you witness this event firsthand? T7 answered, yes, I was present at the scene. The prosecuting lawyer asked T7, Officer T7, did you and your team investigate the cause of the unrest? T7 answered, yes, we did. We interviewed several villagers and gathered evidence. The prosecuting lawyer asked, and what did your investigation reveal about the cause of the violence? T7 answered, our investigation revealed that the villagers were incited by a social media post. The lawyer asked, can you elaborate on that, officer? T7 answered, yes. We found that the defendant, Simon, had been posting messages on social media platforms, including Twitter, now called X, Facebook, and other social media platforms. This post contained inflammatory rhetoric, criticizing the government and encouraging people to take action. The lawyer said, did you review this post yourself? T7 answered, yes, we obtained copies of the post. The lawyer continued by asking, and what was the nature of this post? T7 answered, the post contained messages that were designed to stir up anger and resentment against the government. They accused the government of corruption, of neglecting the villagers, and of other wrongdoings. The post called for action, encouraging people to stand up and fight. The lawyer asked, did this post mention specific actions that people should take? T7 answered, yes. Some of the posts mentioned specific actions. They encouraged people to protest, to confront government officials, and to resist the government policies. The lawyer asked T7, Officer T7, did you find any evidence linking this social media post to the actions of the villagers on the day of the incident? Yes, we interviewed several villagers, answered T7, who admitted that they had read Simon's post and that post had influenced their decision to participate in violence. They said that the post had made them feel angry and empowered them to take actions. The lawyer asked, did you find any evidence of coordination between the defendant and the villagers? T7 replied by saying, we found that the defendant's posts were widely shared among the villagers. We also found evidence that some villagers were actively commenting on and discussing this post, further amplifying their message. The lawyer asked, Officer T7, in your professional opinion, based on your investigation, what role did the defendant's social media post play in the events of that day? T7 answered, in my professional opinion, the defendant's social media post played a significant role in inciting violence. The post created an atmosphere of anger and resentment, and they encouraged the villagers to take action against the government. The post directly influenced the villagers to destroy the government buildings. And the prosecuting lawyer asked, thank you, Officer T7. No further questions. As you can clearly see, this is a cross-examination between testifier codename T7 and the lawyer, the prosecuting lawyer, claiming that Simon, in a particular village in southeastern Nigeria, incited people to carry out arms and destroy government properties and to create a series of unrest and insecurities in that part of the region. And this is coming from T7, who claims to be a police officer from Nigeria. At this point in time, the prosecuting lawyer said he's done with the cross-examination of T7, but before then, he asked the presiding judge to grant the permission for T7 to leave the stands and probably go back to his seat. But the lawyer of Simon's lawyer said, my lord, I would want to cross-examine T7 because his statement and his testimonies are not adding up. Permit me to cross-examine T7. And the judge said, yes, feel free to cross-examine this man. Simon's lawyer walked up to the stands and asked and continued by saying, good morning, Officer T7. Thank you for your testimony. Officer, you stated that you were involved in the investigation of the event in a particular village dated in this particular day and time. Is that correct? T7 said, yes, that is correct. Simon's lawyer continued by saying, and you testified that you witnessed the event firsthand. Could you describe the scene you encountered when you arrived at the government buildings? T7 replied by giving a detailed scene and everything he witnessed. The defense lawyer continued by saying, "Thank you, officer. You mentioned that the villagers were very agitated and violent. Can you quantify that? How many villagers were involved in the destruction?" T7 answered, "There were a lot of them. I would say maybe a few hundred." The defense lawyer continued by saying, "A few hundred, and how many of those individuals were actively engaged in the destruction of the government buildings?" T7 answered, "Well, not all of them, but a significant number, maybe 100 or so." The defense lawyer said, 100, so out of a crowd of a few hundred, only about 100 were actively involved in the destruction. Is that a fair assessment? T7 answered by saying, "Yes, I suppose." The defense lawyer continued by saying, "Officer, you testified that your investigation revealed that the villagers were incited by social media posts of my client, Simon. Did you personally analyze the social media post in question?" T7 answered, "Yes, I did." The lawyer continued by saying, "Did you have any training in the analysis of social media content, particularly in determining the intent and the impact of online communications?" T7 answered, "No, not specifically." The defense lawyer said, "So, you are not a social media expert, is that correct?" "No, I'm not," replied T4. The defense lawyer said, "Officer, you mentioned that the post contained inflammatory rhetoric. Can you provide the court with specific examples of the exact phrases or sentences you found to be inflammatory?" T7 said, "Well, they were critical of the government and they called for action." The defense lawyer said, "Yes, but specifically, did the post contain direct calls for violence? Did they contain specific instructions to damage property?" T7 said, "No, not exactly, but they implied." The defense lawyer said, "Implied it? So, you are interpreting the meaning of the post, is that correct?" T7 said, "Yes, I suppose so." The lawyer said, "Officer, you testified that you interviewed several villagers who admitted that they were influenced by my client's post. Did you record those interviews?" "Yes, we did," replied T7. The lawyer said, "Do you have these recordings with you today?" "No, I don't," answered T7. Defense lawyer said, "Are you aware that the absence of these recordings might be considered a failure to preserve potentially exculpatory evidence?" T7 said, "We made notes." Defense lawyer said, "Notes, but no recordings of the actual interviews. Officer, were any of the villagers you interviewed incentivized to implicate my client?" "No, of course not." The lawyer said, "Did any of the villagers express any pre-existing grievances against the government?" T7 said, "Yes, some did." The lawyer continued by asking, "Did those grievances relate to any specific government policies or actions?" T7 said, "Yes, they did." "And were these grievances perhaps the primary motivation of their actions rather than my client's social media post?" asked the lawyer. T7 said, "It's possible they had their motivations." The lawyer continued by saying, "Officer, you stated that you found evidence of coordination between my clients and the villagers. What specific evidence did you find?" T7 replied by saying, "We found that the posts were shared and discussed." The defense lawyer said, "Shared and discussed? Officer, is sharing and discussing social media posts a crime?" "No, not necessarily," replied T7. The lawyer said, "Did you find any evidence that my client was physically present at the scene of the incident?" T7 said, "No." The lawyer asked, "Did you find any evidence that my client instructed anyone to commit acts of violence or destruction?" T7 said, "No, not directly." The lawyer continued by saying, "Officer, isn't it true that the government has a vested interest in silencing dissent and controlling the narrative surrounding these events?" T7 answered, "I wouldn't say that." The defense lawyer said, "But you're a member of the police force, which is an arm of the government, correct?" T7 said, "Yes." The lawyer continued by asking, "Are you here today testifying on behalf of the prosecution, which represents the government? Isn't it possible that your perspective may be influenced by your position and your allegiance to the government?" T7 couldn't respond or reply. The lawyer continued, "Officer T7, isn't it possible that the villagers' actions were motivated by a complex set of factors, including pre-existing grievances, economic hardship, and the general distrust of the government, rather than solely by my client's social media posts?" T7 said, "I don't know." The first lawyer said, "Thank you, Officer T7. No further questions will be asked." So as you can see, T7, this individual who claimed to be a member of the Nigerian police force, could not defend his actions and his statements in the courtroom because Simon's lawyer asked him a series of questions that if he had recording proofs, if he had video proofs of his statements in court, and he said he does not have any. Yes, and the judge came out to make statements. He came out to make more clarity, asking the prosecuting lawyer to please prepare your witnesses before you bring them forth to the courtroom to testify. And like we said, this happens to be a big point for Simon and his legal counsel team because the witnesses brought forward by the prosecuting lawyer over the past couple of days have not put up a good showing. But this man claimed that he has somebody with a video evidence. Yes, he claimed that he has a witness. That is, the prosecuting lawyer claimed that he has a witness who videoed or recorded Simon and recorded some linkage with Simon to prove that he incited violence in the southeast region of Nigeria. And they claim that these recordings will be played in the subsequent court hearings, which probably will be tomorrow being the 11th of June of 2025. So we believe that tomorrow is going to be a very, very interesting one because we don't know what this guy is going to play in the courtroom, and we don't even know how Simon and his legal counsel team will be able to defend anything that will be brought forth and played. Well, if you find our videos very interesting and informative, please do well to subscribe and turn on post notifications so that by tomorrow being the 11th of June, which will happen to be one of the biggest court hearings ever, once we drop that video about tomorrow, you'll be the first person to see the notification, and that video will be dropping around 8 p.m. if the court hearings happen to hold tomorrow. So do well to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified immediately. Anyways, moving on swiftly. As we speak, the presiding judge made a strong statement yesterday in the court session. He said that it is very possible that Simon is innocent. It's very possible that the prosecuting legal counsel team are just bringing up witnesses that are probably might be falsified witnesses. He claimed that Simon is probably innocent and not guilty. Anyways, if you want to watch the video from yesterday and see what the judge had to say about Simon's case and how he feels that Simon is not guilty,